Okay, let's dive in. You're probably swimming in baby info, right? Maybe all those articles are starting to blur, or that 6-month milestone feels kind of
Yeah,
huge.
it's a lot.
We get it. So today, we're really digging into what our source material calls a major turning point, month 6.
Mm,
This is apparently when babies start feeling less like, just snuggly little bundles and more like actual tiny people.
that's a great way to put it. They develop opinions, personalities start shining through, and they get really curious,
Yeah.
especially about food.
Right. And our source material, this month 6 document we've been looking at, it really emphasizes this shift, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It talks about moving from being like a sensory sponge, just soaking things up, to becoming this active little explorer,
Yeah.
reaching, tasting, grabbing.
Testing everything.
Exactly. Testing the limits, testing gravity.
Yeah. So our mission today is basically to cut through all that noise, pull out the really key stuff about this stage from our source.
Give you some clear, actionable insights.
Exactly. Make it manageable, not overwhelming. So let's get started. What are some of those big developmental shifts we see happening around month 6?
Well, okay, looking broadly, there's progress everywhere.
Yeah.
Motor skills are a big one. You might see the beginnings of sitting.
Oh, okay. Like on their own.
Maybe briefly, yeah,
Yeah.
or perhaps still needing some support. But they're working on it. They might also be doing that pivot thing on their tummy.
Turning around in circles.
Yeah, and passing toys from one hand to the other. That seems simple, but it's a pretty significant coordination milestone.
Yeah, I remember that. It feels like a real achievement when they manage that handoff. And cognitively, what's going on inside that little head?
Oh, cognitively, it's fascinating. The document highlights this emerging grasp of cause and effect.
The dropping things phase.
That's exactly it. It's not just random messing around. It's like their first science experiments.
Yeah.
Drop toy, hear sound. Drop toy again. Does it always make a sound?
Uh-huh. Testing variables.
Pretty much. And alongside that, the beginnings of object permanence, realizing things still exist even when they can't see them.
Right, so when you hide a toy under a blanket.
They might start looking for it.
Yeah.
Or even just showing anticipation, like getting excited when they see their bottle coming. Those are early signs.
Which totally explains why peekaboo suddenly becomes the best game ever. The source calls it cognitive exercise.
It really is. It directly plays into that developing object permanence. And then there's this social and emotional side of things, too.
Yeah, what changes there?
You might see the first hints of stranger anxiety starting.
Oh, the cleany phase.
Potentially, yeah. They might get a bit wary of unfamiliar faces, which is actually a really positive sign of their attachment to you.
Okay, so it's not personal.
Not at all. It shows that they know who their safe people are. And language-wise, that babbling, it starts to get more complex.
More sounds.
Yeah, you'll likely hear more consonant sounds popping up, the babas and dadas. They might also respond more reliably to their name, maybe even try to imitate sounds you make.
That back and forth is starting.
Mm-hmm. Very important for language.
And the big one for many parents, food. What does the source say about starting solids around now?
It lists those key readiness signs.
Yeah.
That tongue thrust reflex, the one that automatically pushes food out, that starts to fade.
Ah, so they can actually swallow properly.
Right. Plus being able to sit up well with support, having good head control, and crucially, showing real interest in your food, reaching for it, watching you eat intently.
Gotcha. And sleep. The million-dollar question.
Always. Well, typically around 6 months, babies often drop down to maybe 2 or 3 naps a day.
Okay.
And nighttime sleep can stretch out maybe 10, 11 hours sometimes. But, and this is important, night wakings are still really common. So don't feel like you're doing something wrong if they're still happening.
That's good to hear. Now, you mentioned the source talks about a cognitive leap. We touched on cause-effect and object permanence.
Yeah.
What makes this leap so significant right now?
Well, it's foundational, really. That cause and effect understanding, that's the very beginning of problem solving. And object permanence, that's not just about toys.
It's about people, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Knowing that you still exist when you walk out of the room.
Yeah.
That's huge for their sense of security, for building that secure attachment. It makes the world feel more predictable and safe.
Right, connects everything. Okay, so this often lines up with the 6-month pediatrician visit. What's typically covered there, according to the source?
Yeah, that visit is key. And the document stresses it's way more than just shots. It's a big developmental check-in.
Okay.
So expect the usual measurements, weight, length, head size. They'll do informal checks on vision and hearing, assess motor skills, rolling, reaching, grasping, maybe attempts at sitting. They'll definitely ask about solids. And yes, there will likely be vaccines, usually in this round, of things like DTaP, Hib, polio, Hep B, rotavirus, pneumococcal.
Got it. Lots packed in.
For sure. And they'll likely ask about safety, too. Baby proofing, car seat safety,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
And the tip from the source, bring your questions.
Absolutely crucial. Write them down beforehand. It's your chance to get expert advice tailored to your baby. Don't be shy.
Good reminder. Now, with all this change, the source also points out some things that stay the same around 6 months. What are those constants?
Well, number one, milk, breast milk, or formula is still the absolute primary source of nutrition. Solids are extra right now.
Okay, good clarification.
And they still need tons of that face-to-face interaction. Your voice, your smiles, that connection is vital.
Mm-hmm.
Also, remember, they can still get overstimulated pretty easily. Loud places, lots of chaos, might still be too much.
Right. Keep things relatively calm.
And routines. Consistent routines for sleep, feeding, play. They still provide that really important sense of security and predictability.
Makes sense. But then there are definite changes starting. You mentioned sitting up. How does that change their world?
Oh, hugely. Suddenly, they have this completely new perspective. They can see more, engage more directly with toys, use their hands more freely. It really opens things up.
Yeah. A whole new view.
Totally. And with solids, again, the emphasis is on exploration. New tastes, new textures. It's not about the calories yet.
Okay.
You might also notice they're getting better at understanding your tone of voice. Like they can tell the difference between a soothing tone and a firmer no.
Ah, interesting.
And maybe the biggest shift socially,
Yeah.
that awareness. When you leave, they know you're gone, even if you're just in the next room.
Right. Separation awareness kicks in, which can be tough. What does that look like typically?
Yeah, it can be tricky. The document mentions things like more fussiness when you leave the room. Maybe sleep gets disrupted again, naps or nighttime.
Oh.
I know. And just generally being more clingy, needing more reassurance, especially when saying goodbye.
So how can parents handle that? The source had some tips, right?
Yes, proactive things.
Yeah.
Like narrating you're leaving, mommy's just going to the kitchen, I'll be right back. Simple, but it helps.
Okay.
Playing those back and forth games like peekaboo, or even just stepping out of sight for a second and coming right back, reinforces that you return.
Builds that trust.
Exactly. And keeping goodbyes loving, but relatively brief. Dragging them out can sometimes make it harder.
Good advice. Okay, flipping that. What are some things parents should maybe keep an eye out for developmentally? Signs that maybe warrant the check-in with the doctor?
Yeah, the source lists a few key things, like if the baby isn't making any attempt to sit even with support, or if there's very little babbling, or they aren't really engaging socially, not much eye contact, smiling, not responding to their name.
Okay.
Also, if they don't seem to react to sounds, or if their movements seem consistently very stiff, or conversely really floppy,
Right.
or just a real lack of interest in things around them, like toys or faces. But again, the pediatrician will be screening for these at the 6-month visit.
Good to know what they're looking for. All right, let's talk about what to introduce. We mentioned solids. Can we go a bit deeper into readiness?
Sure. So those signs again, sitting well with support, good head neck control, that tongue thrust reflex is gone, or mostly gone,
Check, check, check.
and they're genuinely interested in food, leaning in, opening their mouth when food approaches.
Okay. And what to start with?
The usual advice is single ingredient purees. Think smooth avocado, banana, mashed sweet potato, maybe some pureed pears or applesauce. Simple stuff.
Easy does it?
Or, if you've discussed it with your pediatrician and feel it's right, you could explore baby-led weaning, offering soft, graspable finger foods like steamed carrot sticks, chunks of ripe banana, that sort of thing.
Right, BLW.
Yeah. But either way, the key is starting slow. Maybe just once a day initially. See how it goes. Increase gradually.
And remember the goal. Exposure, not calories.
Exactly. It's all about learning and experiencing new things right now. Milk is still doing the heavy lifting nutritionally.
Takes the pressure off. What about play and toys for this age? What supports their development?
Things that build on those new skills. Stacking rings are classic, good for fine motor, understanding size. Textured balls, soft blocks, great for sensory exploration and grabbing. Mirror play is often fascinating for them at this age. Helps with self-awareness.
Oh, yeah. Babies love mirrors.
They do. And those cause and effect toys, rattles, things with buttons that make sounds or pop up. They reinforce that learning we talked about.
Makes sense.
And maybe some more interesting things for tummy time, now that they might tolerate it a bit longer or be starting to push up more.
Good ideas. And language and social stuff, still super important.
Absolutely critical. The source stresses reading daily. Board books are perfect.
Chip it simple.
Yep. And narrate. Name objects constantly. Look, a red car. This is your spoon. Repetition is key.
Yeah.
And singing songs, especially ones with rhythm and actions.
Okay, great tips. Now, sleep again. The source mentioned this is often when parents think about sleep training. What's the perspective there?
It acknowledges it's a common time to consider it, definitely, but it's really careful to clarify. Longer sleep stretches are possible at 6 months, but not guaranteed or required.
Right, no magic switch.
Exactly. And sleep training is a really personal choice. There are different approaches, some more gentle, like fading out support or pick up, put down methods, and others that are more structured, like timed checks, often called Ferber or controlled crying.
Okay.
But the source also reinforces that night feedings can still be totally normal and appropriate for a 6-month-old. There's no one-size-fits-all answer here. Find what works for your family.
That's so important to hear. Okay, moving beyond reacting. What proactive steps can parents take around now?
Well, if you haven't already, start baby-proofing. Mobility can increase really suddenly.
Good point. Crawling could be just around the corner.
Could be. Also, setting up a safe, dedicated floor space for them to practice sitting and play is great. Gives them freedom to move. Encourage other family members to get involved, partners, older siblings, reading, playing, even helping with feeding if appropriate. Share the load, share the joy.
Nice.
And mentally prepare for mess, especially with solid starting.
Yeah.
Get the bibs ready, maybe splash mat under the high chair.
Yeah.
And just embrace the chaos a little. Patience is key.
Deep breaths. Okay, what about introducing allergens? This is a big topic now. What does the source say?
Yeah, the advice has definitely shifted. Current guidelines, especially in the U.S., generally lean towards really introduction of common allergens. Think peanut, egg, soy, fish.
Early, like around 6 months.
Typically between 6 and 12 months, yeah.
Yeah.
The idea is to introduce them one at a time in small, safe amounts, like a tiny bit of smooth peanut butter mixed into puree or some well-cooked scrambled egg.
Okay.
And you wait a few days, 3 to 5, between introducing new ones, just to watch for any reactions.
Makes sense.
BT, and this is crucial. The document strongly advises talking to your pediatrician first, especially if there's a family history of allergies or if the baby has eczema. Get personalized guidance.
Definitely. Always check with the doc. Now, all these baby changes, they impact the parents too, right? Household dynamic.
Oh, for sure. The source acknowledges this. Caregiving rhythms change. Maybe parental leave is ending, someone's going back to work.
That's a huge adjustment.
It is. Partners might find it harder to stay involved in the same way as routines get more fixed. The overall workload managing the house, a more active baby thinking, can feel like it ramps up.
Yeah.
And emotionally, it's complex. The source normalizes feeling proud and joyful, but also exhausted, maybe even grieving the loss of old routines or freedoms. It's a real mix, and that's okay.
That validation is important. On the flip side, what does the source say to actively avoid around this age?
A few key things. No salt added to baby's food. No honey before age. One risk of botulism.
Right, honey is a definite no-no.
And no cow's milk as a main drink until after 12 months. Also, be super vigilant about choking hazards. Whole grapes, nuts, popcorn, raw hard veggies.
Yeah.
Cut things up small and cook them soft.
Okay, common sense, but good reminders.
And limit time in containers. Walkers aren't generally recommended anyway, but even jumpers or bouncers, keep it short, maybe 15, 20 minutes max per day. They need floor time to develop skills. Also, try hard to avoid those shoulds. My baby should be sleeping through the night or should be crawling. Development varies hugely.
Resist the comparison trap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't compare your baby to others online or even next door. Focus on your own child's progress.
So what's the ideal mindset for parents navigating this intense phase?
The source really emphasizes self-compassion. Acknowledge it's demanding, physically and mentally. It's okay to feel capable 1 minute and totally wiped out the next.
Yeah.
Celebrate the small wins the first time they sit unsupported, a new food they try, and reassure yourself, you're not behind. Being present and connected is more important than being perfect.
Presence over perfection. I like that. The source also mentioned something about parental identity around 6 months.
Yes, this is interesting. It suggests that for many parents, especially birthing parents, this can be a time for a sort of second wave of adjustment.
How so?
The intense newborn fog lifts a bit, and bigger questions might surface, like, who am I outside of being a parent? Am I doing this right? Why does it still feel so hard sometimes?
Identity questions.
Exactly. And the source suggests that if these feelings are strong or overwhelming, it's a good time to seek support. Maybe parent groups, online forums, mental health resources, even therapy. It's okay to need help figuring things out.
Absolutely. Prioritizing parental well-being is key. Now, the source included some reflection prompts. What kind of things should listeners think about?
They're really good prompts. Things like, what does my baby seem to really love doing right now? What parts of our routine are working well? What maybe needs tweaking?
Okay, practical stuff.
Yeah. And also more personal. How do I feel about the mess, the milestones, the pace of it all? And crucially, what do I need more of? Rest, connection, help, reassurance.
Taking that moment to check in with yourself.
Exactly. It's easy to forget in the day-to-day.
And finally, the practical side, again, money. Any heads up on potential cost increases around month 6?
Yeah, the document flags this. You might need more gear, high chair, maybe different toys, feeding supplies. Childcare costs might kick in. Groceries might go up a bit with starting solids, more wipes, more bibs. It can add up.
Little things accumulate.
They do. So the suggestion is maybe setting up a simple monthly baby budget just to track things and reduce potential stress around finances.
Sensible advice. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into month 6, what's the core message you want listeners to take away?
I think the main takeaway is that month 6 is this really dynamic, exciting time of huge leaps for the baby, but also significant adjustments for parents.
It's a transition for everyone.
Absolutely. So the key things are observation, really watching your unique baby adaptability, being flexible with routines, and honestly, seeking and accepting support when you need it. You're not meant to do it all alone.
Wise words. And perhaps a final thought for our listeners to ponder. As your baby gets more engaged, more exploratory, reaching out and interacting with everything, how might you see your own role shifting and evolving alongside their journey of discovery?
Ooh, that's a good one to sit with.
Something to think about this week. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.